On the pasuk Eile Shemos Bnei Yisrael, these are the names of the Bnei Yisrael, Aboim Mitzrayimo, who come. It should have said Asher Bo'u LeMitzrayim. The Midrash asks, Haboim, that is the present. This is the name of the Bnei Yisrael who come in Egypt. Should have said they came. This is the name of the Bnei Yisrael that came in Egypt a long time ago. So we'll see later on what the Midrash says about it. Es Yaakov, with Yaakov. Again, there's a question. We said already they are the names of the Bnei Yisrael, of the children of Israel. Who is Israel? That is Yaakov. So he should have said, Aboim Itoi. Aboim Mitzrayimo Itoi. With him. We know to whom it refers. It refers to Israel, which is mentioned before, who is mentioned before. So it's a repetition. Also that has to be explained. Ishu Beiso Bo, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisrael, Zvulun, Binyamin, and then the Torah tells us all the Shiftei Kor, all the Shevotim. On this pasuk there is a Midrash Rabbo, the first Midrash Rabbo. Ve'ile Shemos Bnei Yisrael Aboim Mitzrayimo Es Yaakov. Ishu Beiso Bo, Ado Dirsiv. That is what the pasuk says in Mishle, Kapitel Yud Gimel. Chosech Shiftoi Soine Benoi. The person who hides his stick, that means he doesn't want to correct, to smack his child. Soine benoi, he hates his son, his child. Ve'oi havo, and the one who loves him, shicharo muser, gives him muser every morning. Shicharo is miloshen shachar, Rashi says, and Even Ezra both. The one who loves his son gives him muser every morning. Now, in this pasuk, of course, you have to understand. First, we speak about a stick. Choiser shiftoi, the one who hides his rod. Soine benoi, hates his son. And then we end up with shicharo muser. He gives him muser. It's not the same thing. Giving a stick, using a stick, or giving muser. Giving muser, shicharo muser. Muser means moral, to give him moral to the child, to teach him the ways he has to behave properly in life. So we have to explain that. But never mind. The Midrash says like this. Usually, if someone comes to you and tells you someone has hit your child, what is your reaction? He'll go and fight with that person. So how does Shlomo HaMelech says the person who hates, who hides his stick, his rod, he hates his child? In other words, if you love your child, give him the stick, hit him. But that's not understood. Because a person who loves his child can't bear even the child being hit by someone else. Never mind, he should hit his child because he loves him. That's the question of the Midrash. Lelametro, the Midrash answers, to teach you anybody who stops correcting his child, in the end, the child will become a Roshe, Rahmon al-Itzlon, and then he will hate the child. Once the child grows up without proper behavior, then the parent will come to hate the child. That means, in the beginning, he loves the child. And because he loves the child, that's what stops him from correcting the child, because he doesn't want to upset the child. Because of the love to the child, he cannot bear to see the child suffering. And he doesn't bear that someone would come and hit his child. And Kal Vachomer, all the more, he cannot himself hit his child, because he loves him so much. So what does Shlomo HaMelech say? That you hate your child? A person who doesn't correct his child hates his child. He doesn't hate him in the beginning. In the beginning he doesn't hate him. In the beginning he loves him. That's why he doesn't correct his child. But soine benoi, that will come later. If you do not correct your child because you love him so much, then there will come a time, then there will come a time, soine benoi, that in the end he'll come to hate his own child. Shekein motzinu, because so we found Yishmael shoyolo gaguim al Avraham. And here the Midrash gives us examples, wonderful examples, tremendous, fantastic. We would have never dreamed of these examples if not that the Midrash told us about them. Shekein motzinu beYishmael. So we find about Yishmael, shoyolo gaguim al Avraham aviv, that he had a lot of love to his father, gaguim, nostalgia, but it's not the right word here. Gaguim means, it's written in Shulchan Aruch, a child who has got gaguim to his father, it's a ultra sensitivity, something which makes a child very sensitive to the presence of his father. He cannot bear to be away from his father. There is an halacha in Shulchan Aruch about Dinei Hotzor, in Shin Aleph, I think. Dinei Hotzor. That a child who has got gaguim, we refer to it like an illness, really. Because it says, a child who has got gaguim to his father is even allowed to carry on himself the shoestring of his father. What is it? The shoestring of his father. The shoestring of his father, that is a sgulo, that is a remedy for a child who has got gaguim to his father. Is such a child that to send him away from his father might even hurt his health. He's got gaguim to his father. He's so much bound to his father. He loves him so much. He's so much attached to his father. You could call it homesickness. Yeah. And therefore he has to wear on him always a shoestring of his father. Now what will the shoestring help? I thought maybe I don't know, maybe there's a skule like that, but the shoestring of his father, that means that will remind him of his father. Well, the fact that he has got the shoestring of his father on him, that's already enough to console him, to appease him, that a bit of he's wearing with him a bit of some thing which his father has worn on him. But I just want to quote it. If you want to look into the Shulchan Aruch, in Hilchos Hotzor there, it's mentioned. Just want to explain the word gaguim. Because Yishmael had gaguim to his father Avraham, velo ridohu, and because of that Avraham Avinu did not want to upset him by telling him off. Whenever he saw Yishmael doing something wrong, behaving wrongly, Avraham Avinu said, I can't tell him off, because he's got gaguim. It could be dangerous. He might have a fit. He might faint. It might disturb his mind. He could have a nervous breakdown. I cannot tell him off. Sheyolo gaguim al Avraham aviv, because he had gaguim to his father Avraham. Velo ridohu, and because of that Avraham did not correct him. V'yotzo letarbus ro, and because of that Yishmael became a roshe. And then Avraham Avinu hated him in the end, and he had to throw him out of his house empty-handed. What did he do, Yishmael? When he was 15 years old, he started bringing in the house idols from the marketplace, which he had bought for himself. And he was playing with the idols, and he was worshipping the idols in the house of his father, as he saw from the goyim in the street. He saw the goyim bowing down in front of their idols, of their statues. So he also wanted to do the same. And he bought in the house statues of idols, and he started worshipping them. And Avraham Avinu did not tell him off. So when Sarah Imenu saw that Ishmael was doing that, she became afraid for Yitzchak. So she said to Avraham, send him off. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Sarah is right. You must send him away, Ishmael. So we see from here that when Avraham Avinu saw that Ishmael became a Rosh, he hated him. He hated him. He started hating his son. A second, now, we have to understand this. Rashi says, V'hu yiyeh pere Odom. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Hagar about Ishmael, she's going to have a child, V'hu yiyeh pere Odom. What is pere Odom? Pere means a wild, Odom, man. He will be a wild man. V'hu yiyeh pere Odom. And Rashi says, pere, he will be wild mitzad imoy, because of his mother's ancestry. She is an Egyptian. Although she's a Giyoris, Hagar, she was a princess. She's the daughter of Paroi. And when Avraham Avinu came to Mitzrayim, Paro said, better that my daughter should be a servant in the house of Avraham than to be a princess in my own country. So Hagar was a princess, a Giyoris. But nevertheless, there was still, after she became a Giyoris, some remnants, something from their ancestry of Mitzrayim, which made that Ishmael was a pere Odom, a wild man. Odom mitzad oviv. Odom because of his father. So he was a mixture. Pere Odom. Pere mitzad imoy, Odom mitzad oviv. So says Rashi, and it's taken from Chazal, of course. So you could say that Ishmael became a Rosh, although he did tshuva, mind you. Later on, he did tshuva. Rashi brings from Chazal. Later on, he did tshuva. Okay. But nevertheless, he yotzol etarbus ro. He was a Rosh, and then he did tshuva. But he didn't help his descendants himself. Why? Rashi says, because pere mitzad imoy. Because he was a child of Hagar. Hagar comes from Mitzrayim. And here the Midrash says, no, that's not the reason. The reason why Ishmael became a Rosh, and he did Avodah Zorah, was because Avraham did not tell him off. So what does it mean? Is it because Ishmael has got a bad trune, a bad character, because of his mother, is inclined, as we spoke about Esav, and we're going to quote Esav in a few lines now. Or is it because he has not been given musar? He has not been educated properly. Here the Midrash says, because he has not been educated properly. So we have to explain that. The Midrash goes on to say, Ki yetze boy. Yeah, the Midrash goes on to say that what was the end of Ishmael? He became a ganev. And he was stealing people. He was a gangster, a thief. Okay, later on he did tshuva, but nevertheless. Another case. Esav. Vayehav Yitzchak es Esav. Lefikoch yotzo letarbus ro. Esav. Because Yitzchak loved Esav. Because of that, therefore, Esav became a Rosh. Because Yitzchak did not tell him off. As we found that Esav became a Rosh, he did 5 Averos in the same day. Aroyos, Gilui Aroyos, with a married woman. He was a murderer. He killed someone, maybe her husband. V'kofar b'triyas ha'mesim. He became an apikoiris, koifer b'triyas ha'mesim. He didn't believe in triyas ha'mesim. Kofar be'iker. He didn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ubizo es ha'bechoiro. And he shamed the bechoiro. And also, he wanted that his father should die soon. And he wanted to kill his brother. And he caused Yaakov to run away from his family. And he went to Ishmael to learn, to Ishmael, his uncle, to learn from him bad ways. And also to marry another woman who was also a Rasha. As it says, Vayelech Esav el Ishmael. Now, Esav. What does the Midrash say here about Esav? Who caused Esav to become a Rasha? Yitzchak. Because he loved him. Did you hear that? We know that Esav became a Rasha because he had a bad character, as we spoke already before. He was in his mother's womb already. He wanted to do Avodah Zarah. And here we say, no, never mind the bad character of Esav. Even though he had a bad character, even though he had a bad tendency. But if Yitzchak would have corrected him, would have given him Musar, then Esav would have become a tzaddik. Although he had a bad character, although he had a bad nature, if he would have been given Musar, he would have become a tzaddik. Another example, David with Avshalom. Now Avshalom, you know Avshalom. Avshalom was a Bein Ishe Yefas Toyach. He was the son of a Yefas Toyach. David took a Yefas Toyach. The name of his mother was Ma'achol. The Midrash is going to say it later. Yeah, Ben Ma'achol. And he had another son from a Yisha Yefas Toyach. And the Midrash quotes him as well. Adonio ben Chagis. Here the name of the mother is mentioned in the Pasuk. Ben Chagis. And both were children of a Isha Yefas Toyach. Now we know that in the Parsha of Isha Yefas Toyach, it's written as smichus, written together, just position. Yeah. It's written one next to the other, that a person who takes the Isha Yefas Toyach, he will have a Ben Soirer Umoire. Now why does he become a Rosha then? Because he took a Isha Yefas Toyach. And here the Midrash says, you know why? You know why Avshalom became a Rosha? That's the fault of David. Because, and why Adonio became a Ben Soyer Moire? It's the fault of David. Because he never told them off. He did not want to upset them. V'lo Pasuk says in Melachim Aleph, V'lo yatzovoi oviv miyomov. His father never wanted to upset him, to make him cry. Poor kid. So again, we find that although it's ingrained in the child of a Yefas Toyach, because of the way he came to the world in such a fashion, because he was the son of a Yefas Toyach, so he's got a bad tendency, again. But nevertheless, it's not hopeless. It's not hopeless. You don't have to give up hope. If he is born like that, so finished. No. If you give Musar is something which is a remedy for the Yetzer Hara in any circumstance. Do not say, I've got a bad character, or I am like this, or my parents were like that, and I cannot change. No. We see here from this Midrash, there is only one thing that counts, Musar. Now, what does the Pasuk say on in Mishlei? The end of the Pasuk, Ve'oi havoi, and the one who loves his son, Shicharo Musar, gives him Musar every day, every morning. Doesn't wait. It doesn't wait until the end of the day. Shicharo Musar, Miloshen Shachar. In the morning already, Zrizim Makdimim. In the morning, he gives him Musa. Ve'oi havoi. And the Midrash says, and who is that? Ve'oi havoi shicharu Musa. Zei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Al shehohav es Yisrael, because he loves Yisrael. Dichsiv ohavti eschem omar Hashem. In Malachi Aleph, al kein efkoid alechem es kol avonosechem. And therefore, I'm going to punish you on all your sins, because I love you. Ohavti eschem omar Hashem, shu merade oisom v'yisurim. And because he loves the Yidden, because of that, he sends them Yisurim, suffering. And the Midrash goes on to say, you find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Yidden 3 gifts, wonderful gifts. Torah, Eretz Yisrael, and Olam Haba. And all the 3, v'kulam lo nesonam, lohem elo al yedei yisurim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you want this gift, you want those 3 gifts, Torah, Eretz Yisrael, Olam Haba, you have to pay a price. There is a price. It's funny, a gift usually you don't pay a price. But here the Midrash says, Sholesh matonos tovos nosan HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Yidden 3 gifts, 3 matonos, 3 presents, and v'chulam lo nesonam elo al yedei yisurim. And the 3 of them, he only gave them by Yisurim, by sufferings. Very strange, isn't it? A present, you have to suffer. Usually when you give a present to someone, you do it in order to please that person, not to make that person suffer. But here, those 3 gifts cannot be given unless a person suffers for them. That also needs explaining. And the Midrash goes on to explain, from where do we see that those 3 gifts can only be received through Yisurim? Atoiro, Dirsiv, Ashrei HaGever asher teyaserenu ko, umitoiros chos elamdenu. It's one of the Mizmorim shel Yom. I think Yom Revi. Happy is the man whom HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes suffer, and then he shall learn your Torah. In other words, in order to learn Torah, one has to suffer. We never heard that. Torah? Pikudei Hashem Yeshorim v'samchei leiv? Torah is a joy. Torah is wonderful to learn. Torah is mesameach, hanefesh. It gives joy to the soul and to the person. Yeah, it is true. But nevertheless, there is a part of Yisurim in it. There is a part of suffering. And if a person doesn't want to have that part of Yisurim, he won't be able to receive the Torah. Eretz Yisrael, Dirsiv, v'yodato im levovecho, ki ka'asher yaser ishes beno Hashem elokecho miyasreko. You shall know within your heart that the same as a father corrects his son, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes you suffer, and straight afterwards it's written, Ki Hashem Elokecho meviacho el eretz toivo. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings you to a wonderful land. Straight after he said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes you suffer like a father makes your son suffer. Someone wants to live in Eretz Yisrael, and he wants also not to have any Yisurim. It seems from this Midrash, the same as Torah, it's impossible. If you do not want to pay the price of Yisurim, one cannot live in Eretz Yisrael. Al Yedei Yisurim. And then Olam Haba. Where is it written Olam Haba Al Yedei Yisurim? It says in the Pasuk, Kiner mitzvah v'toyre oir v'derech chayim tochechosh muser. Kiner mitzvah v'toyre oir. How do you acquire it? Olam Haba v'derech chayim. Derech Chaim, what is Derech Chaim? The way of life. Which life? The real life. This life is not the real life. Derech Chaim, the way of life, the eternal life. Olam Haba. Derech Chaim, Toichos Musach. Only by toichechois Musar, rebukes of Musar. And then the Midrash goes on to say, why did Yitzchak become a tzaddik? Atomoitze she'Avrom yiser es Yitzchak benoi. Avrom gave Musar to Yitzchak. And because of that he became a tzaddik. And then Yitzchak gave Musar to Esau, to Yankov. And because of that Yankov became a tzaddik. And Yankov gave Musar to all his 12 children. And because of that they all became tzaddikim. And that's why it says, Eile Shemos b'nei Yisrael aboyim Mitzrayim es Yankov ishuvei Sobou. That means these are the names of the Shiftei Kor who came down in Egypt with Yankov. Do you know why they were all tzaddikim, the sons of Yankov? No, there's also a question. Why were they all tzaddikim, the sons of Yankov? Why did Avram have a Rosh? Why did Yitzchak have a Rosh? And why didn't Yankov have a Rosh? Why were all the children of Yankov were tzaddikim? Mitosei Shleimo. All his children were tzaddikim. The Midrash here says, Midrash Rabbo, the first Midrash Rabbo in Eile Shmois, because Yankov Avinu gave Musar to all his children. Now what's the pshat in the Midrash? Eile Shmois b'nei Yisrael aboyim Mitzrayimo es Yankov with Yankov. If they were tzaddikim, that's because they were with Yankov. They had someone to be mechanech them. They were not just the children of Yisrael. He just brought them into the world. Finished. No. Aboyim Mitzrayimo es Yankov. They came to Mitzrayim with Yankov. And Yaakov educated them. He was miyasser them. He gave them Musar every morning. And because of that, they became tzaddikim. Who is that? What does it mean, aboim? Why does it say this droshe right in the beginning of Shemos? That the reason why Yaakov had 12 children were all tzaddikim, because Yaakov was giving Musar to all of his children, to every single of his children. Why does it say it here in Eile Shemos b'nei Yisrael aboyim Mitzrayimo? Why not before, when they were in Eretz Canaan? When he had the Shvotim, he had them a long time ago already. Why doesn't he say then, this droshe, this midrash, that they were all tzaddikim because Yaakov Avinu educated them properly? The answer is, because now they came to Mitzrayim. Aboim. And the Midrash asks later, what does it mean, Aboim, they come now? It is a present. They came along many years ago. The Midrash says, because now the suffering started. The shibud started. Eile Shmois b'nei Yisrael aboim Mitzrayimo. They come now in Egypt. Because up to now they did not suffer from the shibud. So they were like, for them to be in Eretz Canaan or to be here, that doesn't mean they came down in Egypt. To come down in Egypt, now they are coming. Now that the shibud starts, then they realize, now we are in Golos. Now they start suffering, the shibud. And because the suffering of shibud Mitzrayim was an education for Klal Yisrael, ve'oy havo shicharo musach, and the one, as we said in Mishle, the parent who loves his child, gives him Musar every morning. So we learn that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, that's why he educates us with Musar. 3 presents HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to us. We asked before, you do not pay for a present. Fine, very good. But you know what? If someone gives you a present, for example, an electronic typewriter, right, to receive that present, very good. You can receive it without suffering. You'll have a great joy to receive that gift. But what will you do with it? You'll just put it in the box and leave it like that? You'll have to start making it work. Now you'll have to do some effort, won't you? You'll have to suffer a bit. That is the moshe. Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you Torah. If you want to leave the Torah in the bookshelf, good. That is a gift. That is a present of the Torah. Torah is to be learned. Torah is to be kept. Is to be applied. It's like the electronic typewriter. If you want to leave it gathering dust, bevakasha, please let it go. But you received the present. You didn't receive any present. Comes out. If you want to make it work, if you want to have a toilet, if you want to use it, if you want to make it work, you have to suffer. You have to learn. Don't think Torah comes easy. So here we see from this midrash one thing, that Yisurim, Musar, suffering, Shibud, it's all one thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends us Yisurim in life. We do not want Yisurim. No one wants Yisurim. So how does a person deal? How do you deal with Yisurim when someone finds there are problems and things that are not pleasant happening to him? We see here in this medrash, Yisurim come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ve'yohavo shicharo muser. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to educate us. Yisurim, that is a part how to pay. That's our part. That's the price we have to pay for Torah, for Eretz Yisrael, for Elam Haba. And therefore, instead of complaining, instead of asking why do I have to suffer? Why? The Midrash comes to tell us that is the way how you can receive the present, the wonderful present, which is the Torah. There is a Gemara that says Yisurim is only helpful for these goals, which we say for Olam Haba, for Torah, for Eretz Yisrael. It's only helpful, Yisurim, suffering, is only helpful if a person can deal with them. In other words, if a person doesn't complain, if a person realizes the purpose of suffering. We always say, Gamzul Teva, we repeat it again, but it's not enough. One has to realize exactly what is the purpose of the Yisurim. What is the purpose of Shibud? What is the purpose of Golus? If a person doesn't realize that, he says, why should I suffer? Why should I suffer? What's the point in suffering? If you do not realize what's the point in suffering, those sufferings are nothing. They do not make you better. A person suffers, he has to take a lesson from the suffering. Not just to say, well, the suffering is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I have to be happy with it, because it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will that I should suffer, and that's it. That's not enough. A person has to be mekabel the Yisurim, be'yahavo, the Gemara says, in Maseches Broches, Daf Hey. If one doesn't receive the suffering be'ahavo, with love, then those Yisurim do not expiate. Those Yisurim do not forgive the sins, because that is the purpose of Yisurim. Yisurim are compared to a korban, osham, which expiates our fault. But the same as a korban osham has to be brought willingly, with my full knowledge, with my full desire. The same, the suffering has to be received with my full knowledge, with my full desire. How do you do that? We know especially in our time, and now we are also speaking about with the education of children. That also goes together with the education of children. You know, there was a time when I was a child in school. I myself in a school, a Goyish school. It was during the war, Second World War. I remember I myself received from the teacher some smacks. She had a ruler. She said, give your fingers, and we have to give your fingers. Give your fingers like this. And track, on the fingers. It hurt. Didn't do anything. Didn't leave any blue or anything. But it was hurting. And then we were careful. If we did something, we were talking in the lesson, received some smacks on the tip of the fingers. Well, it was helpful. Now we've come to a different age, new generation. No, those people were primitives, savage. You don't touch a child. You can't. You have to let the child develop healthily. He doesn't want to learn. He doesn't want to learn. Wait until he gets in the mood. Let him play. Let him play football. Let him go. Wait until he has a good mood. Once he feels like learning. I don't feel like learning now. Leave me alone. I prefer to play. Of course, you have to let him develop his character. Everything has to come on his own. You cannot force. Those generations were primitive. They were savage people. And Shlomo HaMelech, and what about Shlomo HaMelech? And what about Avraham Avinu? Because Yishmael had Ga'aguim, Yitzchak with Esav. Musar. It doesn't mean just to give the stick. Musar means sometimes one has to make the child and ourselves, speaking together, everything together, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu behaves with us in our lives. That is the example of chinuch. We all have, that's what the Midrash says. We all have Oishichar Musa. That is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The way he behaves with us. What does he give HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our life? He gives us a lot of good things. We cannot complain. We only have sufferings. Baruch Hashem, we've got a lot of good things. We can count our blessings. But there are also, in everyday life, there are sometimes difficult times that, if one doesn't know how to deal with them, unpleasant. Sometimes we are dealing with people, sometimes it's in parnose, sometimes it's in health, Yisurim, all kinds of suffering. Now that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to teach us something. What does he want to teach us? Education. He is educating us. What? And we have to follow that example. That a person has to realize, as the Chovos HaLevavos says, and that's what we have to give over to our children and to our Talmidim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a man, as the Chovos HaLevavos says in Shara Prishus, so that he should correct himself. He has to make an effort to correct himself, to change his character. As the Gaon says, Ikar Chiyus Odom, the main reason for living here, Bishviras HaMidos, is to break our Midas Rois, is to re-educate ourselves. It's a constant re-education. More humility, more patience, more chesed. It's a constant work. Our life in here, the purpose, that's what he says, the Gaon. The first phrase of the Gaon in Even Shleimo, Bin Le Gaon. Iker Chiyus Odom be'oilomoi u'shviras hamidos v'im lav lo molo chayim. And if not, since we say you can't have an easy life, you don't say that. It's not that. You have to realize that your life is meant only for you to become a better person. That's it. And in order to become a better person, you must realize suffering is a part of it. If you want to become a better person without suffering, that's impossible. The same as you want to use the typewriter without putting an effort into it. Or you could say another motion, a pair of ski. Without going on the slopes and climbing the slopes and fatiguing yourself and straining yourself to learn how to ski. You never. So what's the use to have a pair of ski? If a person wants to better himself, he has to realize nothing comes easy. He has to put a price to it. That's a gift. It's a gift. It's a present. It is a present. But you cannot make use of that present without suffering. Suffering in life is not something unnecessary, which should not be. It just is there because the world is not perfect. No, it doesn't go like that. Suffering in life, that is the hard currency for eternal happiness. The same as when you go to the village to buy something and you won't dream to go empty-handed without any checkbook or without any money. And Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu, gives us money so that we can have the money to buy things. Now, do we complain about the money we have to buy things? No. No, of course. We bless the Rebbeinu Shalom, Baruch Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me money. Like this I can buy food. Well, the currency of Olam Haba is Yisurim. Shloisha matonos toivos nos boch liYisrael, v'chulan lo nesonon elo al yedei Yisurim. In order to be able to have access to those three gifts, Torah, Eretz Yisrael, v'Olam Haba, you have to have currency, you have to have money. What? What is it? Yisurim. But for that, a person has to be re-educated, because we, since our young age, we always have thought that Yisurim is something to avoid. We asked, first we speak about a stick, and then we speak about Musar. It's not the same thing. As we say in English, sticks and stones may break my bone, words will never hurt me. It's not the same thing. Sticks and stones and words are not the same. There are words and there are all right, don't hit my child, you say to the teacher. Don't hit my child. Just words. You want to tell him off with words. It's true, because you see many children, many characters. Some children, just with one look, he starts crying. He's got garguin. He's a sensitive child. Just you give a look, ooh, he starts crying. You must be careful. If you are a teacher, you do not behave the same way with every child. There are some children who are very sensitive. You have to lower the dose of musar. And there are other children who have got a hard skin, and you must deal a bit differently with them. But at any rate, it's not the point. What? The reason, the education of a child and of ourselves is just to instill in our minds and the minds of the children that life is not just a big holiday, just to enjoy. Like when it was every time here, even on the little bill, they write, enjoy. Just to enjoy. Enjoy. You go for holiday, enjoy yourself. Enjoy. Life is to enjoy. Yes, it is to enjoy. But before you enjoy, you must pay the price. The price is to better yourself, better ourselves. That's what the lesson we have to take from this midrash.